Friday the 13th, Part 3 is a slasher horror movie sequel. And in this movie, finally, Jason gets to kill some people who aren't camp counselors as we follow a group of friends that go to this lake house for just some fun. There, they run into these bikers, and these bikers are just assholes, classic bikers. Well, Jason. And in this movie, you guessed it, our lovable Jason boy ends up basically becoming the notorious Jason that we all know today, as this is basically the movie that gives him all of his iconic power-ups, like the hockey mask, his clothes, and at the end, even though he wields a bunch of weapons, his machete. And it's just the same premise. Basically, you're not allowed to have sex if my boy Jason is around. And he's basically just killing all these young teens. And he is just a menace. Classic slasher movie. The movie really is just what creates the Jason we know today. And honestly, that should be the big takeaway from it. So yeah, my review to Friday the 13th, Part 3. Regardless of if this movie is better than 1 and 2, it is the movie that ends up making Jason. So honestly, I think that just kind of makes it like the most important so far. Even though 1 is just really well done from like the production standpoint and just all that, first person, and then the scores, the music, just everything about the first one was like suspenseful and all that. It was just really good. And maybe this doesn't have that, but just the fact that it's like Jason becoming Jason, that is just super, super important. And that's kind of what the second one was missing. And that's why I say the second one's kind of like this movie in limbo, because it's like potato sack Jason. I don't know. And besides that, I guess the acting wasn't as good as 1 and 2. The practical effects are still halfway decent. There was the one part where he gets the guy in the end gets his hand cut off. That was pretty nice. But this one just didn't have those suspenseful kills. So it's really hard to even say anything, because it's like, yeah, this wasn't nearly as good as the other movies, but it's the movie that made Jason. It's just, it's hard to really review it, because it's like, finally, get into the good stuff. But there is one thing I would like to just kind of say. It's like how Jason ends up getting all these sneak kills, but then ends up getting his ass whooped by these girls at the end. It's crazy. He definitely needed to die and get revamped, because he got his ass whooped in this one. At the end of this movie, that girl beat his ass. But yeah, so my recommendation for Friday the 13th, Part 3. And I'm still going to recommend Friday the 13th, Part 3, just because it's the movie that creates Jason. It's more or less his becoming a man movie. And I just think that's important to watch. But yeah, it's definitely not as good as the other ones. But nonetheless, these movies are still pretty good.